Hello guys, this is Modest Major here, bringing you the first episode of my new series, Straightforward Shopping, a series in which I intend to showcase a collection of games from a multitude of different genres, including FPSs, puzzlers, platformers, adventure games, and discuss whether I believe the price tag is justifiable or not. It can be quite difficult in this day and age as a consumer, deciphering the good games from the bad games from the ugly games. As a result, we find consumers being a lot more overprotective with their wallet than they possibly should be. Because of this, we see a lot of underappreciated, underrated games, diamonds in the rough, being tossed to the side because gamers find it more natural to stick to their games of choices, their FPSs, Battlefields, Call of Duties, Halos, and they can be quite stubborn with the price tag. And I understand, the price tags out there are pretty darn hefty, especially for new releases, and I understand why gamers can be stubborn. That's kind of why I put this series together in the first place, because I myself have been guilty of that. You know, I find it so easy to get enjoyment out of Halo that I find myself being reluctant to try out new games and new experiences, and I'm probably missing out on a lot of stuff. So this series gives me a chance to explore a lot of uncharted territory and also share the experience with you guys and discuss whether I believe it is worth the price tag that is associated with it, and, you know, just how much content you really get, how much bang for your buck. That can be quite an important thing for gamers, because even if a game is a great 5-hour experience, for some people that's just not enough. Some people want, you know, countless hours of fun entertainment. A lot of people want a multiplayer experience. A lot of people want a single player and a multiplayer experience. And, you know, some games just aren't going to bring that to the table. Some games are, and I will point those out to you where I can. But without further ado, before I get carried away, let's go into the actual game of today, because the game goes by the name of Murder Miners, and this comes with a $1 price tag, or 70 pence if you live in the United Kingdom, which, to say the least, is pretty insane. And it's not like I just picked out this game just because of its price tag. I would have to say that it goes above and beyond its price tag. It really does a good job of solidifying itself in the indie marketplace, and this is why it is the top rated game in that section, which is pretty awesome, and I think it deserves it. The developer support has been continual, and they've really done a good job of appealing to the Halo masses. Essentially, like, this game's main target audience is most certainly a Halo core fanbase. You've got a lot of people playing the Infection mode on the game as well. It has a zombies type mode similar to Flood from Halo 4 or Infection from Halo 3 and 2. The Infection mode is pretty fun. They've definitely worked on improving it since the beginning. It started off a little bit weak and a little bit lame, but they've definitely improved it since the game has come out, and it's actually pretty enjoyable to play. I've never really been an Infection player myself. I play it more for the Halo arena style gameplay, but it's there for you if you want it, which means you can, like, you can mix up your gameplay every time you come on it. Infection is not the only mode on that game. They also have a Capture the Flag mode, they have a free-for-all mode, a Team Slayer mode, and a survival mode, which is similar to zombies, but I believe it works in a slightly different way. So, this game is pretty jam-packed full of content, and they only intend to add more as they go. I believe with the indie marketplace being in the state that it is, they don't actually have to pay as much for updating the game. I'm not sure how much they pay. Maybe it's even, like, close to free. I can't really say. Maybe you just have to pay for the developer kit. I haven't really researched into that. But in terms of Xbox Live Arcade, you see updates pretty sparsely for that, whereas the indie marketplace seems to see updates frequently, especially for this game. I believe it's probably because it's such a high-selling game and they've actually probably made quite a profit on it, but that's just my guessing. But their next change that they're going to add into the game is a ranking system, which, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. I never would have thought such a thing would come to this game. This game actually started off pretty darn basic. The maps that people were making weren't that spectacular. They had a list of maps that went into the game originally, and they weren't particularly good, and the netcode and the overall matchmaking lag was pretty unbearable. This is where I'm going to go into the problems of this game, because there are a few problems, to say the least. Because the game gives so much freedom to the community, you know, you create your own maps, you create your own matches, and you basically post them onto a list of servers. And as a result, you see a lot of hosts with absolutely terrible ping, and sometimes the best maps that you see on the game, they're being hosted by people with terrible ping, and it's just like, well, I really want to play that map, I really want to go in there, but quite frankly, the hosting is just unbearable, and I'm not sure whether that's just due to the fact that I'm from the UK, and I don't get the best connections to begin with, but I'm sure a lot of other people have had problems with it. Another problem that you encounter on a regular basis is, if you're doing well in a game, and you start killing the host a lot, he will just rage quit, and the entire game will end. So, it's a pretty unstable matchmaking playlist, to be honest, and the way I see it, with this game's price tag, you know, those moments are less frustrating because it's like, let's say we've bought a Halo or a Call of Duty, we've just put down $40 for it, and we're getting a matchmaking where we're being constantly kicked out of matchmaking. In fact, that has even happened in the past. I mean, let's look at Gears of War 2, for example, from the past. That game was almost unbearable connection-wise. It was a second-rate product, to say the least. And, Murder Miners, you get kicked out of these games occasionally, you get, big spikes of lag, but at the end of the day, it comes with an 80 Microsoft point purchase, so you don't feel yourself, feeling too bitter about it. It's like, oh, I can deal with that, I'll just play another game later on when it's lagging less. On the flip side to this, there are moments in this game where everything just crystallizes and comes together in one moment, where you found the right lobby, you found the right map. There's actually a ton of awesome maps on this game. You've got Call of Duty remakes, Halo remakes, Battlefield remakes, and you just get to pick whichever one takes your fancy at the time. And there's a lot of nostalgia going on in this game. It really feels like almost like an anniversary for FPSs. It's just like saying, hey, you want to come back and relive some of the old days, maybe play a little bit of Halo on some Call of Duty-esque maps, and sometimes that can be awesome. They've made it so they can restrict the guns now as well, and put weapons on the map, so you could basically have a vanilla Halo 3 experience, where you start off with assault rifles, then put snipers on the map. And if you get someone who's really experienced with putting together the matches and putting together the right maps and having a continuous playlist of different maps, it can be absolutely amazing. You find yourself thinking, how on earth did I only spend $1 for this game? It's a freaking gem. And I love that, and I feel like there's only 3 things that would really put off people from playing this game. The first of which is being the aesthetics. Some people are just not going to bend their head around the fact that it looks like Minecraft, and that's going to take all the seriousness out of them. Like, some people feel like they can't play a serious FPS, hardcore FPS. It just won't feel like hardcore gaming to them. And there's a lot of elements which really interfere with that hardcore gaming, I suppose, as well. The fact that everyone can spawn in with a sniper on most maps, they've made it so that the creators of the games can actually change that in the settings now, but a lot of people don't, and you find yourself in matches where it's just a constant sniper war, and sometimes that can get a little bit on the frustrating side, I'll be honest. So yeah, there are elements which take away from the competitive side and make it almost more of a casual fun experience where, you can dominate, but at the same time, there are gameplay elements which take away from that. But there's also gameplay elements which really enforce the competitive element. There's no armor abilities. It's very vanilla in terms of its actual gunplay, and there's not a lot of crazy, hectic stuff going on. They've also got elements like wall bouncing, where you bounce next to a wall and you can get to higher places than you normally would be able to. And you've got a piece of equipment called the hook shot, which is featured in a couple of arena shooters, if I believe so. I believe it's featured in Zoonotic, but do not quote me on that. And it basically allows you to reach higher places if you are skilled enough to do so. And that makes the gameplay really fast-paced and really fun, frantic at times. But yeah, the aesthetics themselves, a lot of people find Minecraft aesthetics to be a love-hate thing, and I understand that, At times, it can look a little bit disgusting, but at times, it just gives me that retro feel, it gives me that nostalgic feel, and I just love soaking in that atmosphere and those environments. But that's just me. The second problem would be the connections, as I mentioned. Some people aren't going to want to go on and wait, half an hour to find the right game after a long time of struggling, picking through lobbies. That can get frustrating, but as I said, because of the low price point, it's something that doesn't frustrate me as it would in other games. That's just my opinion on the matter. And the third and final point is just that, a lot of people will not like the fact that it isn't very well. It hasn't got the refinement that a major FPS, a AAA title would have. There's a lot of stuff going on where you're just like, what the frick? For example, there's destructible scenery in some maps. Some players, when they host a game, they turn on destructible scenery. So if you snipe at a piece of a wall, it will just suddenly go away. So the whole map can be destroyed and people start throwing grenades and the whole floor falls apart. And it's just like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Then, as I mentioned previously, you've got the netcode problems, the lag problems, the fact that hosts can just rage quit when they feel like it, the fact that people are kicked out of games at random. They've definitely improved that as of recently. Now, I feel like it's only going to improve as time goes on. But at the same time, it's just not going to be a problem. It is going to be a problem to some people. But I feel like, you've just got to take a step back, just look at it, don't try and compare it to the other games, and just look at this as a side experience, something that you can really enjoy when you've got a bit of free time, and you're maybe frustrated with your Halos, your Call of Duties, and you just think, you know what, I'm going to get on Murder Miners, and I'm going to play something that can be ridiculous fun from time to time. And yeah, maybe there's issues of imbalance, there's issues that will get out of your... There's issues that are just out of your hands completely, and will frustrate you to beyond all reason. But once it does get going, and once the game does get going, and they've got this map, this robust map making creation tool, man, this game can be a heck of a lot of fun, and you find yourself just carry on looking back at the price tag and thinking, why isn't everyone playing this game? It's so cheap, it's ridiculous. But that's just my opinion on the matter. I'm going to give my games a rating out of 10, whether I think it's worth purchasing or not, and you guys can agree or disagree with it. Maybe put your own rating on what you think the game is in the comments. But I'm going to call this game an 8 out of 10 in terms of value for money. Because, you know, I'm not going to say this game's perfect. It definitely has its issues, as I've detailed. But in terms of 80 Microsoft points, you can't really go wrong. And it's not something I feel like many people would regret purchasing unless they're a little bit on the cheap side. That's just my opinion on the matter. Anyway, I've been Modest Major. Hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of this series. Thank you very much. You know, if you want to recommend any games that you'd like me to play, go ahead and post it in the comments. I've been Modest Major. Thank you for watching. Peace out.